Good morning, everyone. For the purposes of recording this session, we are starting in 20 seconds. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Before we begin the second part of this pre-session, we have the honor to be joined by our honorable guest. First, allow me to introduce him. Mr. Guillaume Ngefa-Atondoko Andali is currently the Chief of the Universal Periodic Review Branch of the Human Rights Council and Treaty Mechanisms Division, Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. He also served as the Director of the Human Rights Division of the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali, as well as the representative of the UNHCR in Mali. He has been working as an international human rights civil servant with the United Nations since August 1999 in Switzerland, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Côte d'Ivoire. Mr. Ngefa received a Bachelor of Law degree from the University of Kinshasa and Master of Laws from Columbia University School of Law, New York. A lawyer by profession, he has devoted most of his legal career to the defense of human rights, both at national and African levels. As part of his relentless struggle against Mobutu's authoritarian single rule, he founded in 1991 the Zairian Association for the Defense of Human Rights, currently known as ASADHO, one of the most dynamic human rights organizations in the then Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. In recognition of his long-standing struggle for the promotion and protection of human rights, Mr. Ngefa has been honored by several American organizations such as the Lawyers Committee for Human Rights, now Law First in New York, and the Kennedy Center of Human Rights in Washington. Throughout his career, Mr. Guillaume Ngefa has developed expertise in political reconstruction and human rights in post-conflict countries, especially on issues related to transitional justice, the human rights dimension of political and electoral processes, and on practical ways of promoting peace and justice. Mr. Ngefa, thank you very much for joining us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Distinguished Professor Pablo de Stefani, professors, students of the Università degli Studi di Padova. I hope that I have pronounced as Italians. First, let me express my sincere gratitude to Padova University for the invitation. It's an honor for me as the new chief of the Universal Periodic Review branch of the Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights to participate with you in the 23 edition of UPR Padua model. As you know already, because we have this a strong collaboration with Padua University, the Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights, an importance to the education on human rights as a measure to engage young generations in the promotion and protection of human rights. The UPR Padua model conceived by this university is a remarkable example of that direction. Since 2018, the UPR branch, together with UPR Info, has been actively collaborating with this model with the aim to reinforcing the knowledge, the skills, and competencies of students with the aim which are necessary to advocate for the respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms through the Human Rights Council UPR mechanism. My presence here is really an example of reinforcement of this cooperation, and then also to show that as the UPR branch, we really attach a great importance on this exercise. In a few minutes, you will be on innovative, interactive exercise that reflect how a real UPR working group session is conducted. We just, ended working group last Friday. The methodology used in the UPR Padova model that you're about to start will give you a taste of the functioning of the mechanism and then its relevance. But allow me to share with you some insight about this mechanism. But I was very happy that on our way to this room, Professor Hispano was showing me how you're going to be in Geneva, being here in Padua. So our staff, and then I saw that being room dedicated to some countries, how our colleagues interact with delegations. So I see that, you're already member state, and then I will not surprised to see that some of you will be government experts to come and then to provide the needed expertise and then guidance for the government. The UPR process is also a procedural process. So if you fail to respect the process, and then the entire process is also jeopardized. So it's important that to know exactly how it's going. I hope that during this interaction, there will be some member states will maybe raise point of orders, because this is something that is always happening, and to show exactly the tension that is rising when there is this interactive dialogue with states. UPR review is an update of the human rights situation, as you know, in all UN member states. A complete checkup on the status of international human rights obligations, considering as the basis the recommendation from all international regional human rights mechanisms, as well observations from relevant stakeholders, such as national human rights institutions, civil society organization, and then UN entities. As a UN entities, also we contribute to the the process, because we send our submission as the UN country team, which is composed of all UN agencies, including peace missions, where there is a setting of mission in a post-conflict situation. The specific recommendations issued by international human rights mechanism as a whole, treaty bodies, special procedures, and then UPR cycles, is really an X-ray of the most important shortcomings in the field of human rights at the national level. These recommendations contain, and then you already notice it, contain the key to solving many of challenges the world is currently facing. Challenges that can only be successfully addressed by ensuring the compliance of members with their legal obligations resulting from the ratification of international treaties and political commitment assumed before human rights bodies. And then you will see during this working group, there have been, this working group was also dominated, by what's happening now in the world. The crisis in Ukraine, the crisis in Israel has also affected the way that some countries have been reacting, referring to express their political, agenda or ideology. So that's very important for you to know how the political environment can also affect the way states may respect their international obligations. For that purpose, and then since the second cycle, the UPR mechanism focused on enhancing implementation of recommendations. So one of priority as a UPR branch is really to make sure that what starts in Geneva cannot stay in Geneva. It should be be brought to the respective countries, and then to show how the country respect and then implement its obligations. And therefore, this we have been recommending countries that in their delegations, when they come to Geneva, they want to ensure that this is an integrated with the presence of a member of the parliament, because it's important, because some of the recommendations require, parliamentarian action in terms of legal reforms. So it's important that they should be there. The parliaments can also provide the means, financial means, political support to enable, the country to fulfill its obligation in terms of recommendation. Just why the human rights branch is really supporting the recommendations, how those recommendations should be implemented. So we do it. We have two funds. One funds on participation, that to enable countries that have limited resources to enable them to participate. And then also for the recommendations, so now that we can provide them with the needed support for the implementations. So since this process is also a peer review process, so the participation funds as well, the implementation funds receive contribution from the member states, some of them making a commitment during their own statement during the interactive dialogue. So it's a peer process, not only for reviewing the report, but also supporting each other, how in terms of participation, also in terms of implementations. So the peer review nature, which is based on the principle of equal treatment among states, is one of the UPR most relevant added value to the human rights machinery. It is what brings about states to make a political commitment with human rights and a fundamental freedom, regardless of the treaties they have or not ratified, by supporting recommendations and then receives. So state political commitment with UPR, consequently with human rights standards, is evidenced by the universal participation of states. So always in terms of participation, we have 100% of participation of member states since the inception of the process. And then this 100% participation of states, it helped a lot in the review process. And then also it gives us the multidisciplinary and the high-level delegations as well. This time, for example, we have a lot of delegations. We review some states that are very key internationally, but they were really well represented by high delegations coming from their respective countries. So it shows that countries pay a lot of attention to the UPR process, so that we have noted an increasing number of participation in terms of level of head of delegations. That show exactly something that's important. We also noted the increased numbers of recommendations that they accept. I hope that in the simulation, some of you will be able to say that we reject this recommendation, although the terminology rejected is not the most appropriate. We say accepted or not. But some states, even knowing that it's not the accepted word, they will say rejected, invoking that this is not in line with their legal system, the political system, or is contrary to their own tradition and then other principles. So it has been a long way since the UPR came to light in 2008. So since its inception, as I said, 193 states have been reviewed by the UPR mechanism in 3 occasions. During the first 3 cycles, some 93,000 recommendations have been issued, out of which 75% have been supported. It means that they were accepted. The high level of acceptance make the UPR one of the most successful international human rights mechanisms, successfully shared by other international and regional human rights mechanisms, as well as with relevant stakeholders, such as national human rights institutions, civil society, and then UN entities, whose submission and recommendation are the basis of the UPR. And then you will also notice that from some of the member state statement, we say that, it always pleases the UPR because it's a peer, a peer review process where states themselves, they feel comfortable to be reviewed by their peers, not by NGOs. You were young when the Human Rights Commission existed. There were a lot of tension between member states and then NGOs because, the characteristic of the former Human Rights Commission was that it was a process that was totally dominated by NGOs. Now they reduce, the time of intervention of NGOs, everything has been streamlined and et cetera, et cetera. So this is really something that which is reviewed by member states themselves. You also see that member states, they always please the UPR, but they have a political attitude vis-a-vis other mechanisms, treaty bodies mechanisms, special rapporteurs, and so on. I can say it how they make statements, or they are not totally collaborating with some special rapporteurs, and so on and so on. So let me stop here by saying that, as you know, we cannot all achieve this objective without support and an active participation of each of us, especially young people, universities, civil society organizations. So I'm really, I have a hope that, some of you will be member state expert, some of you will be head of UPR, others, they will be international experts that, they will contribute to this exercise. You're also participating in this exercise in a special year, which is we are all celebrating the 75th anniversary of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. That is historical because those who are coming to do it next year, it will be different. You're going to do it this year, almost close to the anniversary of this. So I encourage all of you to expand your knowledge about human rights by taking the best of all your participation in this UPR simulation so that you too can actively contribute and then advocate for the human rights cause. So thank you again. And then I do apologize for being too long in my speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngefa. Excellencies, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, I now declare the second part of the pre-session dedicated to the presentation of National